Ohio, Mr. Jordan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Rosenstein, why are you keeping information from Congress?
Congressman, I'm not keeping any information from Congress that it's appropriate.
In a few minutes, Mr. Rosenstein, I think the House of Representatives is going to say something different.
I don't agree with you, Congressman. I don't believe that's what they're going to say, and if they do, they'll be mistaken.
I disagree, but I think in a few minutes the House of Representatives is going to go on record saying you haven't complied with requests from a separate and equal branch of government, that you haven't complied with subpoenas, and you got 7 days to get your act together. I think that's what's going to happen in a few. That's not Jim Jordan. I think that's the majority of the House of Representatives. In just a few minutes, I think that's going to happen. And I want to know why you won't give us what we've asked for.
Sir, I certainly hope that your colleagues are not under that impression. That is not accurate, sir. And
it is accurate. We have caught you hiding
Mr. Chairman, can we allow the witness to answer? Mr. Chairman, point of order. We can go to Mr. Jordan's press conference and listen to him, but we came here to hear from the witness.
The time belongs to the gentleman.
Mr. Rosenstein,
can we allow him to answer?
We have caught you hiding information.
Allow him to answer.
He will be permitted to answer when Mr. Jordan.
Why do we have them here?
We'll allow him additional time to answer.
Why are they not allowed to answer?
The gentleman is out of order. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Mr. Rose, let me make this one point, then I'll let you
answer.
answer.
Jordan, I'd like to
let me make this one point,
sir.
Where we've caught you hiding information, then you can answer. Why did you hide the fact that Peter Strzok and Judge Contreras were friends? Why did you redact that in the documents you gave to us? Judge Contreras is kind of important. FISA court judge, more importantly, just as importantly, the judge that heard Mike Flynn's case. Why did you try to hide that from us?
Mr. Jordan, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to respond. I've heard you make those sort of allegations publicly on TV.
And
if you let me respond, sir.
Mr. Chairman, he should be given the opportunity.
Now, Mr. Jordan,
I
am the Deputy Attorney General of the United States. Okay? I'm not the person doing the redacting. I'm responsible for responding to your concerns as I have. I have a team with me, sir. It's just a fraction of the team that's doing this work, and whenever you brought issues to my attention, I have taken appropriate steps to remedy them. So your statement that I'm personally keeping information from you, trying to conceal information...
You're the boss, Mr. Rosenstein.
That's correct. And my job is to make sure that we respond to your concerns. We have, sir. Now, I've appointed Mr. Lausch, who is managing that production. My understanding is it's actually going very well, sir. So I appreciate your concerns.
Again, I think the House of Representatives is going to say otherwise.
But your use of this to attack me personally...
Why did you... It's not wrong.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. May the witness be permitted to answer the question?
It's not personal.
The gentleman will suspend. The witness is going to have an opportunity to say whatever he wants at the end of Mr. Jordan's 5 minutes. Until the
it is not
those
personal.
5 minutes, they're his time.
I appreciate your service. It's not personal. We just want the information. Why did you tell Peter Strzok not to answer our questions yesterday? When I asked Peter Strzok if he'd ever communicated with Glenn Simpson, he gave us the answer he gave us dozens of times. On advice of FBI counsel, I can't answer that question. Why couldn't you answer that question?
Mr. Jordan, I appreciate your sincere concerns, but I didn't give Peter Strzok any instructions. If there was some problem with the instructions he had, I'll be happy to look into it.
Not what his FBI lawyer said.
Mr. Jordan, when you find some problem with a production or with questions, it doesn't mean that I'm personally trying to conceal something from you. It means we're running an organization that's trying to follow the rules, and we're going to respond.
What was interesting, when I asked him if he'd ever talked to Bruce Orr, he said he had. He said he had 3 times in 2016 and 2017. Then I asked him, have you ever talked to Nellie Orr? And he said, no, I haven't. I said, well, why can you answer that question? Because Nellie Orr worked for Glenn Simpson, worked for Fusion. He could answer that question, but he couldn't answer because FBI counsel told him he couldn't. He couldn't answer the question whether he'd ever communicated with Glenn Simpson, a journalist. Why couldn't he answer that question?
Mr. Jordan, I appreciate you saying it isn't personal. Sometimes it feels that way. How do I know, sir? I mean, you interviewed Mr. Strzok. I didn't, so I can't...
Works for you. Doesn't work for us.
There are 115,000 people who work for me, sir.
Mr. Rosenstein, did you threaten staffers on the House Intelligence Committee? Media reports indicate you did.
Media reports are mistaken.
Sometimes. This is what they said. Having the nation's #1 law enforcement officer threaten to subpoena your calls and emails is downright chilling. Did you threaten to subpoena their calls and emails?
No, sir, and there's no way to subpoena phone calls.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying. I'm reading what the press said. I'm reading what the press said.
I would suggest that you not rely on what the press says, sir.
Well, I didn't ask if there's no way to do it. I asked if you said it.
I said what?
What I just read you.
No, I did not.
Well, now who are we supposed to believe? Staff members who we've worked with, who've never misled us, or you guys, who we've caught hiding information from us, who tell a witness not to answer our questions? Who are we supposed to believe?
Thank you for making clear it's not personal, Mr. Jordan.
Well, I'm saying the Department of Justice.
Because I'm telling the truth and I'm under oath. If you want to put somebody else under oath and they have something different...
I know these staff members. Here's my last question. What's so important that you know that you don't want us to know, that you won't give us the documents we're asking for, that the House of Representatives is about ready to go on record saying you should give us? What's so darn important that you will threaten members, at least according to media reports and according to the staff members, threaten members?
Inquiry, Mr. Chairman.
What is so important, Mr. Rosenstein?
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr. Chairman.
Well,
this is not an appropriate time for a parliamentary inquiry.
And point of order.
Shut up, Sheila.
The gentleman keeps representing that the House of Representatives. Yes, it will be. The Republicans who continue
that is not an appropriate point of order.
Well, he needs to be corrected.
Shut up, you fucking monkey-faced bitch, Sheila Jackson Lee.
The gentlewoman will suspend. The time of the gentleman from Ohio will be restored for an additional 15 seconds, and then the Deputy Attorney General will be allowed to respond.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Rosenstein, Mr. Ray, I do appreciate your work, but I'd also appreciate if the House of Representatives could get the information. We have repeatedly, Mr. Gowdy talked about how long this investigation is going on, how long there's been a special counsel. We started asking for information in July of last year, and some of that is still has not been given to the Congress. Still not has been given to this committee, the committee charged with defending the Judiciary Committee. So I appreciate what you do. I just want the information, and we're so frustrated that there is now a resolution on the floor of the House. In just a few minutes, that will be voted on.
The time of the gentleman has expired. Mr. Rosenstein will be allowed to respond.
I don't have any control over what resolutions you vote on, sir. And
I know you
don't.
don't.
To do that.
The gentleman will suspend it. The time now is the Attorney General's.
If you're interested in the truth, Mr. Jordan, the truth is, we have a team of folks, they're Trump appointees and career folks, and they're doing their best to produce these documents. Director Ray explained to you the process. He's got hundreds of people working around the clock trying to satisfy these requests.
And Mueller had the relationship, we know, with Director Comey, James Comey, who we also are learning today. There's a report that he basically, was drafting a letter of pardon, not willing to investigate Hillary Clinton, and he hadn't even talked to her, hadn't interviewed any of her aides, that he was going to let it all go. So all of this seems to point to certain people in Washington who seem to have it out for Donald Trump.
And we're protecting Hillary Clinton. In the case of Comey, he began drafting his statement allegedly exonerating Hillary Clinton, at least from a criminal charge, back in May and April before his July statement. And that was before 17 witnesses had been interviewed, including Hillary Clinton. It explains why they were handing out immunity agreements like candy. Because it was a make-believe investigation at that point, because like Alice in Wonderland, Comey had come to his decision and the investigation would follow.
What did
I asked a close friend of mine to do it.
And was that Mr. Wittes?
No, no.
Who was that?
A good friend of mine who's a professor at Columbia Law School.
Thank you.
Senator Heinrich.
Mr. Comey, prior to January 27th of this year, have you ever had a one-on-one meeting or a private dinner with a president of the United States?
No.
That's a lie. Him and Mulvaney and Loretta Lynch, Valerie Jarrett, James Clapper, James Brennan, and Admiral Rogers, Mike Rogers, had dinner. They had lots of dinners at the White House. The pictures of that have been scrubbed from the internet. But, yep, nope, he's done it before.
I met dinner, no. I had 2 one-on-ones with President Obama that I laid out in my testimony, once to talk about law enforcement issues. 2?
Then how come there are 15 photos online at various different meetings of you at the White House in the Oval Office with all of these guys?
Issues, law enforcement and race, which was an important topic throughout for me and for the president, and then once very briefly for him to say goodbye.
Were those brief interactions?
No. The one about law enforcement and race and policing, we spoke for probably over an hour, just the two.
And what was the contents of that conversation? Where are the memos on it, Mr. Comey? You were always meticulous about keeping memos. You've said that in your earlier statements, but funny how all those memos are now gone. There's no memos. For somebody who kept memos meticulously, in your own words, where's the memos? Oh, that's right. You said later on that you never thought to keep memos on any other president except for Trump because you didn't trust him. But all of your colleagues said earlier, long before all this started, you were meticulous about keeping memos. Where are all those at?
Two of us.
How unusual is it to have a one-on-one dinner with the president? Did that strike you as odd?
Yeah, so much so that I assumed there would be others, that he couldn't possibly be having dinner with me alone.
Why? You had dinner alone with Obama? You had dinner alone with a lot of those guys. What a lying cocksucker, man. You know, someday this shit's gonna